Well, just so you know, the entire liberal narrative in California is completely collapsing. Right now, there's a devastating new expose, which is about to blow the lid off of how crybaby California Governor Gavin Newsom and the LA political machine abandoned their own citizens, leaving them to burn while they just posed for the cameras.
Los Angeles County is launching an investigation into State Farm's handling of insurance payouts after the devastating Palisades and Eaton fires earlier this year. The probe will focus on violations of California's unfair petition law after fire victims complained about delays, underpayments, and claim denials. State Farm says they are handling over 1,300 claims and are committed to paying customers what they are owed.
And when it comes to Gavin Newsom, how the heck can this guy run to be president of the United States after this?
Yeah, exactly, Todd. It's a history of repeated injuries on Gavin Newsom's part. Look, he was warned by President Trump in 2018 that our reservoirs were low and he needed to do deforestation and brush clearance. And as that Chase building that man was referring to, that they were walking in front of, is really this staple building in the middle of the Pacific Palisades that Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass are standing in front of for a photo op while it burns. They didn't have enough resources. They had a very, very low budget fire department. Gavin Newsom, Todd, decided not to give the firefighters a raise. This is not just negligence. This should fall under, honestly, like this beyond incompetence. Clearly, they knew what was happening. They didn't put the proper channels in place, Todd, ahead of time.
Watch this.
These 12 people deserve to feel safe in their homes, but were instead lost in a fire that was the direct result of gross negligence and mismanagement by our state and our local government.
We've been forced to lead our own recovery because the city won't. We need federal intervention.
Katie, this hearing was led by Rick Scott. Where are the California senators?
Right. They're not focused on fixing these problems, Todd. And these people are not getting permits to rebuild their homes either. So not only did their home get eviscerated, insurance is not covering it because a lot of these people had been kicked off of insurance plan, as the guy said earlier. And the California Fair Plan didn't come into effect and or only subsidizes or insures homes up to a certain value. And in the Pacific Palisades particularly, these home values way exceed what California Fair Plan is willing to cover. So many of these people have left the area, are selling their lots at pennies on the dollar to big commercial developers. And you see this attempt on California's government to bring in low-income housing to this very dominant, beautiful area. Todd, it's a disaster. Gavin Newsom should be accountable for this, and this should be constantly on the news until he announces his run for president.
And right now, as the truth comes out, behind the scenes, you have to believe that these California Democrat politicians are in full-blown panic mode. But don't take my word for it. Here's what Harvey from TMZ just said earlier this week.
Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom have something in common. They both talk a good talk. Gavin Newsom, he has stood up to Donald Trump in a big way. But what about governing? Because Pacific Palisades and Altadena are hellholes right now. He's in charge of California. What is he doing to organize the devastation and the rebuild in both of those cities? Because I've talked to architects and homeowners there, multiple people who are saying nothing's happening. It is disorganized. No one is bringing everything together so that people can actually rebuild. And one guy that I spoke to on the phone this morning, an architect who's actually working on an overall rebuild plan, says that it is an absolute, as he put it, fucking mess, and that it's going to take 5 to 10 years, maybe, to try and fix this. Good luck for the people who were completely displaced for that period of time, especially people who can't afford options for living elsewhere. It is a mess here.
Exactly. It's a mess. But what the liberal mainstream propaganda won't tell you is that this wasn't just a natural disaster. This was a man-made catastrophe engineered by years of gross incompetence and radical green policies from crybaby California Governor Gavin Newsom himself and the liberal elites running the state. They let paradise turn into an apocalypse. and their own response was to show up for a photo op. It's disgusting. And instead of taking any responsibility for his failures, what does crybaby California Governor Gavin Newsom do? Well, he gets on stage, he jets off, literally private jet, to a global climate conference in Brazil and blames, of course, climate change, the global boogeyman, for his local incompetence. So he's trying to sell the world on the idea that these fires were all because of climate change. It is a pathetic excuse to cover for his own failures. Listen to his excuse and listen to the brutal truth.
Home values will start to decline. You're seeing it across the spectrum right now, in my state included, which is one of the most blessed and cursed states as it relates to climate. We're on the tip of the spear of climate change, simultaneous droughts and simultaneous floods. The hots are getting a lot hotter, the dries drier. You saw one of the most devastating wildfires in American history in the middle of winter in Los Angeles in January. 100-mile-an-hour winds attached to fire.
Brittany, as we've discussed many times before, Gavin Newsom cut the state budget for fire prevention, reducing it by more than $100 million last year. We know the fires were completely mismanaged. There was a key reservoir empty, which meant that firefighters were trying to fight the fires with no water. We also had LA Mayor Karen Bass ignoring the weather warnings, fleeing off to a cocktail party in Ghana, who also cut the LA Fire Department's budget last year. And Gavin Newsom, he has the audacity to blame his incompetence, really, on climate.
Newsom stands there, blames climate change for a fire that happened in January, but as you just heard, the truth is he cut the fire prevention budget by over $100 million. He let a key reservoir run dry, leaving firefighters with no water. And to top it all off, they arrested an arsonist for starting the fire. It wasn't climate change. This has nothing to do with climate change and everything to do with incompetence and deflection from Newsom himself. He's lecturing the whole world while his own state is burning, ruined because of his disastrous policies. Now, the wildfire survivors who lost everything are now being forced to fight their own insurance companies just to get what they're owed. They're pleading with crybaby California Governor Gavin Newsom to step in. Like, come on, bro, just do your job and do something. But he's nowhere to be found. Take a look.
Welcome back in. LA wildfire survivors are calling on Governor Newsom to pressure California's insurance commissioner to resign. They made the announcement at a news conference this morning in Altadena. ABC 10's Becca Habegger has been following the state's home insurance crisis for years now. And Becca, you say that survivors are saying that insurance is collapsing really in two ways.
Yeah, they say tens of thousands of families statewide aren't able to find, renew, or afford coverage for their home. And those who do have coverage often find it's hard to access when they need it.
We are suffering, we are struggling, and we just want the chance to rebuild our lives and go home.
Right now, these people are being re-victimized and they are begging for Newsom's help. And what does he do? According to that reporter, his office gives them the silent treatment.
Again, survivors are calling on Governor Newsom to pressure Commissioner Lara to resign. So I reached out to the governor's office to ask if Lara still has his backing. I did not hear back by deadline.
We all know he's just too busy planning for his future failed presidential campaign. He is a complete, total dereliction of duty type of politician. It is sad. It is pathetic. So you have an incompetent state government that lets the fires happen and a predatory insurance companies robbing the victims. And while the Democrats and the media stay silent, really it's only the Republican Party who is speaking the truth, who is actually doing things. Superstar President Donald Trump is on record back in September. He absolutely destroyed Newsom and LA Mayor Karen Bass for what they've done.
Negligence on Gavin Newsom or Karen Bass in regards to those deaths?
Well, I'll tell you, there's negligence on not getting people permits. That is negligent. We got all of the federal permits. Lee Zeldin, the federal permits are much more difficult. They were all gotten within 30 days. People could go build their houses. It's going to be years before they are allowed to build the house. And Karen Bass is grossly incompetent. And Newsom, this is a very incompetent guy. I watched him with the hands. I'm saying, what's going on with the hands? There's something wrong with him. Do you watch him? There's something wrong with this guy. But more importantly, he didn't allow the water to come from the Pacific Northwest. You know, they have tremendous amounts of water in California. People don't know. They send the water out to the Pacific Ocean. So I demanded it be open. If that were open during the fire, before the fire, you wouldn't have had the fire because all the sprinklers would have worked in the houses. They had no water. They had no water in the fire hydrants. You wouldn't have had the fires. It would have been put out after one house, two houses. But he stopped the water from coming in. And I had to send in the military to have that water opened after the fires. And now they have water, but he should have more because they've restricted, they still restrict it. There's something wrong with these people. There's something really wrong. As to investigation, I view it as a gross incompetence. I view it as an ideology that's wrong. It's a radical left ideology. And if I didn't win this election, I think our country would be destroyed. I don't believe you'd be here right now, and our country would be destroyed.
I mean, so that's it right there. Superstar President Donald Trump was exposing the truth just a couple months ago. He was pointing out that Newsom's radical water policies literally starved the state of the resources needed to fight these fires. He's calling out the gross incompetence that left families with dry fire hydrants as their homes burned to the ground. Even earlier this year, he wasn't alone. All-Star Speaker Mike Johnson laid it out perfectly. Newsom blocked water policy, failed to manage the forest, and Mayor Bass cut the fire department's budget right before fleeing to Africa. They failed you, and the only person willing to stand up and fight for the forgotten victims is Superstar President Donald Trump. This isn't about politics anymore. This is about competence versus corruption. The people of California and this entire country have seen the truth, and they will not forget.